Hello everyone, my name is Daniel and I'm a programmer and an artist. This video is about how you can use the build walls modifier from my geometry node assets. The build walls modifier is the first in a set of modifiers that mostly begin with the word build, and while we'll look at them one by one, I think it's good to think of them as all being parts of a larger system. To use build walls, we'll need two objects, a wall guide object and a wall template object. The wall guide object controls where we want walls to be placed, and the wall template object controls what those walls will look like. For the wall guide, I will add a cube and delete the top and bottom faces, and for the wall template, I will add a plane and model a simple wall. The wall template can be styled however you like. To start with, I'll just make a simple double-sided wall. The orientation of your wall template is important. Make sure that any rotation is applied to your object. The height of your wall should extend along the object's z-axis, and the length of your wall should extend along the object's x-axis. The origin point of your wall template must be placed in the bottom left-hand corner of the wall, and I recommend placing it near the center of the wall along the y-axis. Now that I have a wall template, I'll add a build walls modifier to the wall guide object, either from the modifiers menu or you can do that from your asset browser. As soon as you do that, it will complain about an empty output. To resolve that, edit the wall template property on the build walls modifier and select the wall template object. This is the basic setup for build walls, and at this point you can edit the wall guide. By moving and extruding faces, you can control where the wall template is copied. By loop selecting the top of the wall, you can easily edit its height. It's also possible to select corner edges and bevel them, creating rounded corners or angled. By flipping the normal of a face, you can control which side of your wall template is shown on which side of the face. And you can also duplicate faces to move additional walls around. Going into a little more detail on wall template construction, any details that you place in the corners of your wall template will be preserved, but anything that is placed near the center of the wall will be stretched when the wall is a different size. For this reason, I recommend using a texture that tiles in all four directions for the center of your wall, while trim sheets are fine to use at the top and bottom where they won't be moved vertically. When resizing the wall template to fit a face in the wall guide, the template is divided into 4 quadrants, and each of those 4 quadrants is moved to their respective corner in the face. By changing the cutoff X and Z values, you can move where those dividing lines are in the mesh. If they're set at 0.5, they will be in the center. The X cutoff extends from 0 on the left-hand side to 1 on the right-hand side, and the Z cutoff extends from 0 at the bottom to 1 at the top. When modeling a whole building, it's common to use quite a few wall templates. By simply changing the wall template on the build walls modifier, the whole style of the wall can be changed instantly. By using several different wall guide objects, each with their own build walls modifier, you can construct a complete building that uses several different wall template styles. For example, you could have interior and exterior wall templates. A number of my modifiers can use tags. To understand the tag feature, imagine that your object is a container, and in the container is your base mesh. So normally modifiers would just replace that base mesh with the result of the modifier, but we could instead add the result of the modifier into that container so that it contains both the base mesh and the modifier result. However, that's not very useful if we can't tell the two apart, which is where the tags come in. By tagging the original base mesh as base mesh and the result of the modifier as the modifier result, additional modifiers later in your modifier stack will be able to select which mesh in that container to apply another effect to. So in build walls, the build on setting allows you to select a tag in the container to build on. Everything will ignore the tag feature entirely. Base mesh will build on anything that wasn't assigned a special tag, and all of the other tags must be assigned by another modifier that was earlier in the stack. And then the tag as option lets you choose how the result of the build walls modifier will be tagged for identification by future modifiers. Under the UV panel, you can enable or disable the UV adjustments. You probably always want that on. The UV axis X and Y option can be important. Currently, build walls can only offset the UVs by mapping the X and Z axes in object space to the U and V coordinates in the UV map. You can toggle which of those axes is mapped to which by changing the value of the UV axis XY option. For example, if I rotate these UVs by rotating them 90 degrees, then the texture becomes stretched because the wrong axis is being mapped to U and V. But if I then toggle the UV axis X and Y option, it will be correct again. However, that doesn't help when some faces in your wall have UVs that run vertically and others that run horizontally. To solve that, you'll need to create an attribute on your wall template so you can set that setting differently on individual faces. I like to use a Boolean attribute that's on the face domain and name it vertical, but you can also use a vertex group in most cases. Then in edit mode, select the faces with rotated UVs and set that vertical attribute to be true. You can edit the active attribute on your mesh selection with the set attribute operator, which can be found under the mesh set attribute menu, or as I prefer to do it, by searching for it in the search menu. Then on the UV axis XY option, click on the button to make it use an attribute and type in vertical so that it will use that vertical attribute we created on the wall template. And that way, different faces in your mesh can have UVs that run either vertically or horizontally, and the modifier will still be able to adjust them correctly as you resize the wall to whatever size you want. Under settings, you can toggle the miter option, which allows you to choose whether the corners of your wall should be flat or cut at an angle to match the next wall section. Continuous UVs tries to make the UVs of adjacent wall sections continue seamlessly. Loose edges as curves is an option to use with the build wall elements modifier. If you add edges without adjacent faces to your wall template, they will be converted to curves in the modifier result, and then the build wall elements modifier can array things along them. We'll cover that in another video. The merge verts option will merge the vertices of adjacent wall sections together. The merge distance option gives you control over how close two vertices must be before they're merged. And the auto smooth angle lets you choose the angle below which edges will be shaded smooth. To go along with that, by marking sharp edges on your wall guide, you can force a vertical edge to be sharp even if it would otherwise be smooth. And by marking sharp edges on the wall template, you can force especially horizontal edges to be sharp even if they would otherwise be smooth. The build walls modifier is one of my favorites because it separates a lot of the technical details of creating the wall template and the UVs and making sure it all fits together into a smaller and earlier step. And once it's done, editing and moving your walls around is a creative process, and all of those technical details with worrying about UVs and seams and selections can be mostly forgotten. And that just makes it easier to focus on the big picture of what it is that you're trying to make. And that's about it for the build walls modifier. In the description, there are a bunch of links. You can visit my website where there are more details about all of my modifiers. I have a Discord server that you're welcome to join, and there are links to where you can purchase my Geometry Node assets if you would like to do that. Anyway, that's all I've got for this one. Thanks for watching.